When I'm walking down the street.
I do want to say to Doni and many of you in this room that over a very long career in this city, all of you have helped me and my colleagues tell the truth and to try to tell.
I may not look like you and you me, but
my head up.
I'm South Carolina, so I just.
What does this event mean to you, Miss Peggy Moore?
Oh, my heart.
Happy 20th anniversary.
My heart is about loving up on my sisters. Do you know what it feels like to have your sisters in the room? Done.
And dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself. There's a
the doctor lived next door to the janitor, to the reverend, and the lawyer. We were together. Now we get so high and mighty that you create stress for your society because you don't like poor black folks either. That's a health problem. Get yourself together so I can stop being taking care of geriatric people and get back to pediatrics. I thank you, Doni, for all you've done. Let's keep doing it all the more.
letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. And I dare you, I dare you, I dare you to be you.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. Today's guest is the one and the only Chad Williams. Not Chad Hayes, not Chad Brown, not Chad Justification. It's Chad Williams. Hello, sir. How are you?
What's up, Doni? It's good to be back. I think it's been exactly almost 2 years since I was on this show when I came out here.
Wow, all the way from Barry Farms. Look, we want to dive right into the history for those of us in Baltimore who don't know about Barry Farms.
Yeah.
That's where you grew up, right?
That's right.
Is that Southeast DC?
That's Southeast DC, my brother. You know that.
Tell me about Barry Farms. And it's a long name to it. Let me get the full name. You probably can pull it out of your head.
Mm-hmm.
Barry Farms Freedman neighborhood. Yeah. I mean, that just, I'm thinking Frederick Douglass. I'm thinking the Freedman's Bank. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so, I'm going to give you a short story because, I did a research article about Barry Farms where I grew up. So right after the Civil War, free black men who fought in the Civil War were basically camping out along what today is called K Street. And then General Oliver Otis came through and asked them, what did they need? And these guys didn't say a handout. They didn't ask for a job. They didn't ask to be enlisted back into the military. They asked for land. And General Otis Howard ended up purchasing them in secret the land, which we know now is Barry Farms. That turned out to be one of the most well-known, richest, wealthiest areas along the East Coast. So much so that these black women and men actually have vacations home in what we know now as Harper's Ferry. The money that they used to build out Barry Farms helped to fund Howard University Hospital, the Freedman Hospital, which eventually became Howard University Hospital. So it's a rich legacy there that a lot of people are not aware of, but that's the legacy that I carry with me.
Now, some people in Baltimore might not like what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it any damn way. When I look at Howard and I look at Morgan State, Howard has some things that I desire for Morgan State.
Yeah, but go ahead.
A certain functionality.
Mm-hmm.
I just heard you say how Howard, the hospital, this impacted the life of those people in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and it was envisioned way back right after the Civil War by free black men. So, you know,
It wasn't just about an education, it's about life.
Yeah.
The whole aspect. Your doctors, your lawyers, all of these things, and bringing the education back to the community.
Yeah, exactly. Now, one thing I will have to say though, as a proud UDC Firebird, which people get lost in Black history, is that before Howard University was built, it was built around the original campus of the Miners Teacher College, which was built before Howard University, which eventually became the University of the District of Columbia. So I always have to throw that in there because people lose that kind of Black history knowledge.
One of the greatest alumni ever of UDC, besides yourself, is a Baltimorean named Chew Smith.
Yeah.
Harlem Globetrotter.
That's right, basketball player.
Yes, sir. So let's go back into some of your history. Now, the article you were talking about is Berry Farm, a community denied hope. And that's where I want to point to your mission to eliminate systemic issues facing disadvantaged urban neighborhoods.
Yeah.
That's what you train for.
Yes. I've been doing this probably since, 1998. I had some really great mentors who people may not even know the names of, people like David Dennison, John Hampton. You even got William Parson, Stanley O'Neill, people that I worked with in the firm that I started out with. You know, many people may know Stanley O'Neill as the former CEO of American Express, and William Parson, the former CEO of Warner Brothers. We even had Roger Ferguson, who was the first Black man to be a vice president on the Federal Reserve Bank. So these were individuals that I had worked with and very instrumental in my life path.
So how'd you come to Baltimore? And of all places, North Avenue. That's my strip, man.
Well, y'all recruited me. So as you know, I was running a housing authority out in Vegas, and word through word, there were multiple folks told them to reach out to me. And as I tell people, one of the things that's important to me in my career is to actually have impact, not political impact, but real on the boots, neighborhood ground impact. And having a discussion with the board, the selection committee, I was really excited that number one, with an individual like Senator Antonio Hayes, that we had the political will to get things done. The transition into the Wes Moore administration, that we were going to have the funding to get things done, and then having the institutional support of Dr. Jenkins at Coppin State University, who chairs the West North Avenue Development Authority. I think all of the ingredients were there to really have a monumental impact in the epicenter of redlining, which actually spread throughout the country. And if we can address the systemic disinvestment that happened in West Baltimore along the West North Avenue corridor, this should be a model for the nation where other redlining was replicated.
Now, you've introduced this term to our discussion, and we don't want anyone to be confused. What is redlining?
Yeah, so redlining was a process started out here in Baltimore where the city council put in a law that said that depending...
I got to check you with that. It was the mayor.
The mayor? Okay.
Mayor J. Barry Mahul, 1910.
All right. So he put this law in that said that a certain based on the percentage of a block, whether it was Black or white, that only a Black or white individual family could live in that block. And obviously, as a result of that, many whites fled Baltimore. They moved out past, which would be now North Avenue, because that used to be the county area, into the city, like annex some more property, like in Roland Park, where most of them moved. And then as that flight happened, there was a lack of investment in the city in the infrastructure along West Baltimore. And even though Blacks were able to afford these homes, they were purchasing homes that actually were not up to code had inefficient infrastructure, and that continued on for generations. And so that's, to me, just a really snapshot of redlining and the historical impact that it had.
I'm getting ready to share some history with you you may not know.
All right.
So back in 1910, when the mayor, his name was J. Barry Mahul, and this was right around the time that Roland Park had just been developed. Roland Park is Baltimore's first suburban garden community.
Mm-hmm.
And the white folks up there, some of them, their mentality hasn't changed to this day. They had a black community right next door, founded by a black man named Grandison Hoe, called Ho's Heights. And when they introduced that ordinance, they didn't want those blacks to be able to move into their neighborhood. And like you said earlier, that ordinance, the redlining, where blacks couldn't move into white neighborhoods, and diabolically, whites could not move into black neighborhoods.
Yeah.
This is the home of apartheid, the home of segregation right here in Baltimore. Anyway, in case you don't know, now I might be harsh on Morgan because I'm a student there now, and I have the damn right to be harsh on him. But I will tell you that there were two black men who put foot in J. Barry Mahul's arse. Their names were Ashby Hawkins and George McMecken. The meeting we had Saturday, where you were able to bring out over 200 people, look more like 250, from a multiplicity of neighborhoods, from Walbrook Junction down to Mount Royal. I lost my thought.
You got a lot on your mind, bro.
That building, Unity Hall, is right there at Utah and McMecken.
Yep.
The same McMecken who named after George McMecken. He and Ashby Hawkins, they were brother-in-laws. They were two lawyers. They put foot in J. Barry Mahul on a regular basis. And so that whole area, including Druid Hill Avenue, is like civil rights central here in Baltimore. Where so much of the civil rights movement, including the Goon Squad, came right out of that area right there. And like you said, we couldn't live above North Avenue or west of Fulton Avenue, including over there where Coppin is. Tell me about the role of Coppin State and Dr. Anthony Jenkins, the new president, because this started before he even came on the scene, didn't it?
I believe so, right as soon as he came on the scene. So as the president of Coppin State University, by the law of the state, Dr. Jenkins serves as the chair of the West North Avenue Development Authority, as one of the two anchor academic institutions, because Micah is also part of the board, Maryland Institute of College of Arts. But Coppin plays an integral role, particularly having one of the top nursing programs, emergency services and police programs, educating youth and making it affordable in Baltimore for many folks that may be not able to afford other academic institutions, but also the master plan that Coppin has to expand their footprint and engagement with the community is also important. And I know that he's had at least a couple of community meetings on his own with the community to give them updates on where Coppin's vision is. And right now, this marketing and promotion that they have to be more, I think, is really enticing because you're wrapping up Baltimore, but you're also asking people to be more and go all in for Coppin.
Well, Coppin is very near and dear to me. I'm an alumni, a McNair scholar, and grew up just 3 blocks to the south of Coppin. So we've watched the expansion of Coppin beginning in 2002, back when Governor Robert Ehrlich was the first to dump a boatload of money on the Coppin. Now Coppin has gone from what used to look like a high school campus to now go from Gwynns Falls down to Baker Street.
Yeah, expanding it south of West North Avenue down to Baker. Yeah.
And that was a tough neighborhood. That's where I came out of. And what's there now is a lot more beautiful. Now, don't get me wrong, when we grew up, that's what we knew.
Right.
But I lost a lot of friends in that area.
Yeah, understandable.
So we're glad to see this transformation. So tell me about your work in Vegas.
My work in Vegas. So I think the most significant work that I would talk about in Vegas
You ran
is
the housing authority?
it's a regional housing authority. It's one of the largest in the country. Most people may not know Clark County, Nevada is the 11th largest county in the nation. It encompasses the city of Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, Henderson, Mesquite, and Boulder City. Has a population of about 2.5 million people. So it's a significant housing authority. We had owned over 500 acres, I believe about 35 or 31 properties, and really had an impact on really 15,000 people. So it's a pretty large agency, but the thing that I'm most impressed about, or for me, on my self-impressment, is that we took a planning process in the historic west side of Las Vegas, which is the area traditionally which was started by African Americans that moved from the Midwest and the South to work on the Hoover Dam. And they settled in the area called historic west side. And just like West Baltimore, it's an area that had been significantly de-invested in. And when I came in, we did a large urban planning program to redevelop 2 public housing sites, the historic Moulin Rouge casino site, which is all going under development, bringing over a satellite campus from University of Nevada, Reno and UNLV, bringing back some of the commercial and retail along that main corridor and historic west side. And then when you go further down, they actually just started the construction on the plan that I had initiated to create a whole mini neighborhood for the blind. And so those 2 projects really, I think, were my most impactful out there in Vegas.
So this current project for West North Avenue, you and Senator Hayes, thanks to Governor Wes Moore, were able to bring in 17 million this year, 11 million out of last year's General Assembly, a total of 28 million. So that's on par, but that's chump change compared to some of the budgets that you've had to manage. You've managed 150, 250 million.
Yes, yeah. But it's not about the amount of money that's being managed. It's about the amount of impact that you have in managing that. And so, you give me $1 million, I'll make it work. But if you give me $100 million, I'll definitely make it morely work. So I think over the time, we see the commitment from the governor and Senator Hayes and Delegate Ambry for the West North Avenue Development Authority. I think people are seeing how successful we are to quickly get up and running and then have an impact, producing our comprehensive plan, getting the grant funding out to entities that reflect the neighborhood and having them starting work and just in less than 2 years since I got on board.
And I got to tell you, the last major investment, now, of course, the previous, Hogan put some money on North Avenue. Ehrlich put some money on North Avenue. But it's a 9-1 Democratic city. And I got to tell you, Mr. Chad, I want to see, I was looking to see a little bit more political representation at that meeting because that strip from Mount Royal up to Walbrook Junction, that covers 2 or 3 city council districts, state legislative districts, and we need to see our elected officials. I only saw 2. I know it's election season, but these people got to show up on North Avenue. I mean, look at what you're doing. You're spearheading growth and development. There hasn't been this type of investment in West Baltimore I have counted since the empowerment zone.
Wow, and that goes all the way back. Yeah, that's
$100 million, and you're talking about the mid-90s.
Yeah.
So I would think a lot more political interest would have been aroused by now.
Yeah, I think that's a question for each individual elected official to make that decision and answer to you.
They missed the crowd of 200 people, Chad.
Hey, Doni, so for individuals like you in the media, I think that's something that you can challenge them on. What I will say is I think that when people actually see these construction projects going on, and then people want procurement and grants, I think there will be an increased interest of other elected officials.
Let me give it to you like this. If you were an elected official, would you be there?
For
Would
sure.
you have been there Saturday?
For sure, I would have been there.
Why?
Because there were 200 plus votes there.
See, you can't build buildings without people.
Right.
Senator Hayes, and I've monitored, covered his work since the 90s. He looks young, but he's put in more time than people 70 years old in this city, looking out for a neighborhood he grew up in. He grew up a block and a half, 2 blocks from Penn North. Nobody comes back to Penn North. When Freddie Gray happened 9 years ago, we didn't see any of these people. We saw him. But these people don't come to Penn North. Do you understand? They don't. That's like Southeast DC. When I tell people we're doing an event at Petey Green UPO.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
When I tell them we're doing a Black Wall Street at Benning Park, people in Baltimore have no clue. But people in Northwest don't even care. Northwest DC, whatever.
Right.
Because there's a certain stigma about Southeast DC. Now, for me, that's where Marion Barry from. Oh, not where he's from, but where he represents. He's out of Mississippi, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Mississippi.
But the greatest mayor ever for me out of Washington, D.C. But at the beginning of the show, one of the things Dr. Zollicoffer says is we have a public health problem. We don't like poor Black people. And that's what's often associated with West North Avenue. And that's just a stereotype.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think the investments that we'll be making in housing, transportation, economic development, green space will have a direct and indirect impact on it and improving not just people's overall health, public health, but environmental health, public safety, and created living wage economic opportunity jobs for employees and residents so that they can continue to maintain and live in West Baltimore.
Now, you did some advocacy work way back when you were in college, if I'm not mistaken. Who were you standing up fighting against?
Oh, Lord, man, you went all the way back. Man, so that was the DC Control Board at the time. It was like March 1996. If you remember, that was like one of the largest protests in DC at that time. We had shut down the city for a couple of days, the bridges, because the DC Control Board and Republican-controlled Congress wanted to cut DC's budget and particularly eliminate the University of District of Columbia. So I was the student representative on the board of trustees at that time. And I want to say it was like March 16th. We just walked out on the street on Connecticut Avenue, shut down a major thoroughfare. And then we had other students from other universities join us. Howard, Catholic, American, and Georgetown shut down bridges into the city. And that protest lasted about at least a couple of 3 days, if I can remember. And I think about that because it really doesn't get a whole lot of significant impact. But yeah, you went really way back on that one. Most people don't even. But
you stood up. You stood up for the people. You helped lead the way, didn't you?
Yeah, it was me.
Now you done led protests, but you've also studied at Rutgers, UDC. Yeah. Tell me about this Frankfurt School. Where's that?
Oh, so the Frankfurt School in Germany is one of the probably 10th ranked top economic schools, international economic schools, similar to the London School of Economics. So I studied there primarily banking, real estate development, had the opportunity to use those skills in Trinidad, where I worked for the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago for 4 years. And then also had the opportunity to work in Nigeria, South Africa, and Kenya, and then also Vietnam, working on micro community finance. So it's a combination of studying at the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management, but primarily working at the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, and then having sovereign wealth funds from other countries invest in Trinidad and structure those in a community banking micromanagement system.
So Sie sprechen Sie Deutsch?
No, actually, I'm gonna give you a funny story. So, yes,
You don't parlez-vous français?
no, je parle français for sure. But here's the thing. One of the things in Germany is that a lot of people speak English. Now, when I was giving a presentation, I actually thought I had to do the presentation in German. So I think that's when like Google Translator was just coming out. It wasn't the best. And so I wrote my whole speech using Google Translator. Probably like halfway through the first paragraph, they were just like, just speak English at this point. You're butchering the language. But I had this whole speech in German. I had the phonics lined up, for our kind of folks on how I need to say it. So it didn't work out too well, but
You tried though.
It was a good icebreaker. Yes,
It was. I find that if you show them that you're trying to speak their language, whomever they are, Russian, Polish, you mentioned Nigeria, wherever, it just shows that you have respect for their culture, and they applauded your attempt.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you throw in Nigeria. I gotta ask you, oh my goodness, did you develop a West African accent while you were there? You know, the English kind.
No, I did not develop a West African accent when I was
There's
there.
200 million Africans in that country. Oh my goodness.
No, did not. People still think, I still got a Southern accent from my parents that grew up in deep Southern Georgia. So I might not hear it, but I don't know.
Now we haven't heard of Georgia. I went to school in Georgia. I ain't heard no Georgia on you at all. But the Trinidad and Tobago, that was a multi-million-dollar project as well. Tell us about it.
Yeah, that's called the East Port of Spain Development Company. So the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago had an area just like historic West Side of Baltimore, Southeast DC, West Baltimore, called East Trinidad. And so in East Trinidad, you had approximately 100,000 vacant and blighted single-family homes in that area. There was no
100,000.
100,000. You had no infrastructure. You had 10,000. I'm sorry, 10,000. You had no infrastructure. Okay. You had no water, sewer, electricity. Road infrastructure was messed up, and so. Most people don't know Trinidad is one of the top producers of natural gas and a little bit of oil, but the United States gets most of its natural gas from Trinidad. And as a result of that, there's going to be significant growth along that port area, East Port of Spain. So
there was strong banking system, I understand also.
Yeah, so Trinidad or Port of Spain, which is the capital of Trinidad, is seen as like the New York financial center of the Caribbean. And so that was also helpful. And so what the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago did was invest $100 million. That's where that 100 comes from, $100 million, which was 600 million of Trinidad dollars, which is very significant to invest in these communities, to acquire these vacant and blighted homes, repair the roads, put in green space, trees, parks. And I led that process for about 4 years down in Trinidad.
So let's get to Mr. Joey Garner. Thank you, Joey. He mentions the 2200 block of Rightestown Road. Tell us about the North Avenue footprint for those who don't know. We know about the Red Fox Lounge. I've been around there once or twice there, Joey. But you have 250 yards to the south of North Avenue, 250 yards to the north of Avenue, roughly from Walbrook Junction down to Mount Royal. Is that correct?
Yeah. So technically, it's the 600 block to 3200 block of West North Avenue, which is defined as our target area. And then we go 250, as you're correct, 250 yards north and south of West North Avenue, which would be considered the buffer zone. And I would say on a curve on the end of those of the avenue would probably be about 150 yards on the east and west of the avenue. So that is currently our targeted development zone. And the legislation allows the board to expand the target zone or buffer zone at its discretion. But right now we're focused primarily on that core area around West North Avenue.
Okay. How is it to learn the lingo, the Baltimore lingo? Because, you know, Pennsylvania Avenue, we call that the avenue.
Right.
White folk on the other side of town call White Marsh, Eastern Avenue, call that the avenue. But historically, black folks, we know Pennsylvania Avenue as the strip. But you're on North Avenue, which goes from west to east.
Yeah.
How is it when you go into different communities and people start elbowing you, hey, we don't flow like that, or this is this is that? How does it feel to be, I guess, the outsider, the leader from the outside?
Ooh. The first year was pretty challenging. Obviously, because I got beat up. You know, I'm not from Baltimore. What I'm going to know about Baltimore, you know, you even fairly beat me up and challenged me, right? And so,
a couple jabs.
So I think that was fair. I think things significantly changed for people to show how invested I was in the community when people found out I actually moved to West Baltimore and moved right into the Poppington neighborhood. And
see, we wanted you to move to Sandtown. I'm not gonna lie, Chad. Poppington, you know.
I mean, okay. Well, you know, Wanda wanted me to move into Upton. You know, Keandra wants me to move into Reservoir Hill. You know, I got lobbied really hard. But yeah, I ended up choosing the Poppington neighborhood.
I might have took Reservoir Hill though. I used to live over that way.
Yeah, so I think that changed for folks when they knew that I actually put my money. Yeah, I put my personal money where my heart and passion was, and I think people saw that, and that became a very significant change on people when I purchased the home back in August 2022, and so that changed, and then just getting out in the community. As you know, I rarely go to a lot of public events, but you can see me at some bar, lounge, just with average Baltimoreans who have no clue about what's going on politically, but will talk to me about what's really going on and about their challenges. And that's where I feel most comfortable at, is with folks who are really rolling up their sleeves and living everyday lives.
Chad, tell me about brain drain. Tell me about suburban flight. Tell me about, because you're in a neighborhood, West North Avenue, a neighborhood that we didn't start living into until the 50s. Mm-hmm. My mother was one of the first black homeowners on our block, just 3 blocks to the south. That was roughly 1952. Since then, there's been this mass exodus, just like in DC, people went to Prince George's County. Big ups to Marion Barry for that. West Baltimore moved straight out the Liberty Road corridor over the past 55, 60 years.
Yeah.
Brain drain. We lose some of our best and our brightest. The people who stayed are those who loved it or those who couldn't move. Heroin came through. Cocaine came through. The crack epidemic came through. And now people from these very neighborhoods will not go back to these neighborhoods. Now white people are more likely to buy in these neighborhoods. Now people from DC, 45 minutes down the road, are more likely to invest in these neighborhoods. Tell me about brain drain.
Wow. So that brain drain. So in DC, you know, we would call it the plan, right? With news articles, you know, just the disinvestment in certain neighborhoods, and then people moving out their county, and then the neighborhoods change, and as we call that, gentrification. So one of the things that I think, a couple of things that we're doing to address that is when we are providing these grants to these developers to acquire and purchase homes, we're limiting the amount that they can sell those homes when they're complete, somewhere between $250,000 to $275,000. You know, because many legacy residents are worried about being priced out, a rapid increase of their property tax. But at the same time, we will be investing in those legacy residents by rehabbing their home. Like nobody wants to have a fully renovated home right next to them and say, why can't somebody invest in me so to make sure that I want to stay here too, right? So it's not just about having the numbers to eliminate vacancy and blight. It's also about how people feel when they're in those neighborhoods. So that's number one. And then when we do commercial and retail and investment and revitalization, hopefully we have people that moved out of West Baltimore will have some historical connection and say, hey, I want to move back into West Baltimore neighborhoods. Now, obviously, we're focused on some primarily capital projects, but a holistic approach of, making sure we have a top education system, public health, transportation, all of those things are important to entice people to move back. But it's also about that price point and making sure that we don't price legacy residents out.
So first of all, this is from Joey again. He said his grandma was in the 1600 block of Gwynns Falls. I'm not sure. What's the cross street today, Joey? Right at the entrance of the park. Is that Hamlin? Maybe there's Gwynns Falls and Dukeland. The house is in the family. Here's a Baltimorean who you may know. Y'all stole him. The whole Prince George's.
Urban Reed?
y'all stole him from us. See, this cat from Baltimore, he right over there in Cherry Hill. But we ain't seen him in Baltimore in about, well, I did see him. I ain't gonna throw you under the bus, Urban. You get props from the great Urban Reed.
Oh my goodness. What's up, Urban?
But Glenn brings up the highway to nowhere, the houses that were knocked down all along Mulberry Street, Franklin Street, that was left undone. And this, as you know better than any of us, they built highways through communities in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah. They
built highways through black neighborhoods around the country. They took Seneca Village from black people in between 82nd and 89th in Manhattan to finish Central Park.
Yeah. They created Suitland Parkway. They created Suitland Parkway to go right between Berry Farms. It was built primarily as a military road from Bolin Air Force Base to Andrew Air Force Base, and it was just a military road to split the Berry Farms neighborhood. So yeah, this went all across the country, East Coast, West Coast, South, and Midwest. So
I'm going to put you on point. This is the one political question I'm going to bring to you. We have a new governor. He's been a year and a half into the game. This news outlet has been pushing black business from day one.
Mm-hmm.
When we think about this initial investment, 11 million last year, 17 million this year, we understand that there's some communities around the state who have feelings about that, and we think they should understand that investment in Baltimore is an investment in the state of Maryland, particularly when you consider the under investment in these very same neighborhoods for decades.
Mm-hmm.
West North Avenue has never seen any investment, and it's a federal highway. Tell me about the role of the first black governor. Now, we're not expecting, we remember when Obama was president, he's the president for all people. Damn all that. We helped put him in there. We want to see investment in the black community. What's your take on that? And we're not trying to get you to cut your nose off. We want you to keep getting that money. But this is a black show. This is Black USA, Be More News. What do black people get? Tell them, Chad.
So look, what I would say is that this fiscal year, Wes Moore significantly increased the Bernie grant for Baltimore City, the core funding for Baltimore City. I believe the core money went from 20 to 50 million. Bernie went from maybe 10 to 20 million. All of those were like 200, 150% increase. And then 17 million for West North Avenue Development Authority. When you think about that, that's almost, I believe, a 200% increase in funding just for Baltimore itself, right? And it doesn't have to be necessarily West Baltimore, but just Baltimore itself to address housing, economic development, and transportation.
It's got to be West Baltimore.
No,
Because like when Obama was president, he gave Stephanie Rawlings Blake money. She put the money downtown.
right.
They took money from the recreation centers, including Easterwood. That's when the Omega Psi Phi fraternity took over Easterwood.
Yeah.
Took money from these recs and put the money on a Grand Prix for 3 years. And that Grand Prix is not even here anymore. We've seen money taken from our neighborhoods. Martin O'Malley, the 21st century schools thing. We ain't seen no new damn schools around here. They're closing schools in these neighborhoods. Between Sandtown and Coppin, they are closing schools, not opening schools. We have been told this misnomer that we have a population decrease. Yet every night on the news, on Fox News, the murders are in these very same neighborhoods. So we commend you and the governor for investing where people haven't found the value. Black leaders have not found the value. And it's so disappointing that we put these people in office.
And next session, one of the things we will do better in advocating for West Baltimore is making sure that community leaders such as yourself, neighborhood association leaders, residents who really understand having an investment impact from the state in West Baltimore are going to the General Assembly next budget cycle. This year, Senator Antonio Hayes and Delegate Ambry had introduced a bill, SB 1005 and HB 1427, to give the authority more powers and duties, such as owning, acquiring, leasing land, giving loans, condemnation authority, a lot of exemptions to move projects forward. And unfortunately, that didn't pass, whether it was clerical issue or issues with the bill on one particular side of the General Assembly. We're committed, and I know that they're committed, and the governor's office is committed to get this bill passed next year, introducing it early, pre-filing it as an emergency bill. But just having a plan and to be able to give grant funding are significant towards revitalizing West Baltimore, but we also need an authority that actually has similar powers as the Maryland Economic Development Corporation, Maryland Stadium Authority, and other smaller economic development authorities that you can find in west state of Maryland or down in the south near Charles County. And so it's very impactful where you have 56% of vacancy in Baltimore City is in the 40th district, 9.
See, let's go there. Say that again. Say that again.
56% of vacancies of residential housing, and it's in one Maryland legislative district.
So you tell that to all of the people that are complaining about the investment in West Baltimore. You tell them that.
Yeah, and when you think about it, you're losing property taxes, you're losing sales taxes, you're losing income taxes for people to live here, you're losing taxes coming in from other parts of other visitors to our state. And we talk about a budget fiscal challenge that we have. Right there, we can invest and start generating more revenue for the state when we address almost half of the major city in Baltimore is not producing income for the state because we're not investing in it. Right. And so, one of the things that, we have to be mindful of is that, there was an unfortunate tragedy that occurred with the bridge, right? The individuals who were working there and lost their lives is a great economic impact on our city and our region. However, there was one bridge. Yeah. However, there was one bridge that has never been built when we read the history of West Baltimore, and that's the Morrill Bridge, economic vitality and parity and equity for folks that live in West Baltimore. And so we need to build that bridge also, maintain that bridge, and continue to invest in that bridge so that it could be the fruits of our labor for generations to come. While we're rebuilding that bridge, we need to also build a Morrill Bridge for West Baltimore.
Tell me about your transportation guy.
Oh, Eric Lane. So Eric Lane, He's probably
because I was grilling him Saturday. I ain't gonna lie.
you was
You think I was throwing some jabs at you? We were hitting him with body shots. We ain't got nobody on no bikes, Chad.
Well, he and I are both bicycle riders, so you know.
I ride a bike too. Got two of them, but we don't ride bikes, Chad. We don't need a whole lane for bikes, Chad.
Oh, look, so you know, I'm gonna defend him. You know, I'm gonna cautiously let him continue to advocate for bicycles. You know, one is it's a healthy way to commute. It reduces greenhouse gases.
Yeah, but Chad, when cars are idling in the block of North Avenue from Mount Royal just to Linden every day, that idling cannot be good.
Yeah, so look, in our comprehensive plan is actually a study that shows, I believe, the bottlenecks of transportation, particularly on the bus routes, and when they start to slow down. So that's a combination of looking at the time and other street lights, improving the intersections that we have. You know, there are intersections where there's no crosswalks painted. There should be more pedestrian safety. And those things will help contribute to increasing the flow of traffic. But yeah, we're real cautious on the bicycling. I get that.
Come on, Chad. I'm 58.
Right.
My parents were alive. I'd be driving them. I wouldn't be putting them on a bike. If my grandkids come over, I'm driving them. I'm not putting them on a bike. Have you seen the way these people drive in Baltimore?
Yeah, so look, let's not get hung
I
up.
don't trust nobody if I'm on a bike, and I'd rather be on the sidewalk because
look. So our transportation plan is not singly about bicycles, Donnie. So it's a multimodal transportation. We're talking about bus, cars, bicycle, and walking at the same time.
No. I got to throw this in there. This is Be More News. We were in Washington D.C. We're over there on H Street, and we saw a trolley. And Muriel Bowser put, if I'm not mistaken, 600 million, or she put a lot of money on a trolley that goes up and down H Street.
No, that was actually Anthony Williams who started.
Anthony Williams. Okay. Yeah. But they got a trolley. Now, if you can build us a trolley that goes up and down West North Avenue, then we can go for that.
You go for a trolley.
I go for a trolley. But let's put it out there and let the people. Okay. Let me shut up. That's enough. You go ahead.
No, it's
because I could be speaking just for me, but I like that trolley. And see, we've seen Fells Point get built up. We've seen Port Covington get built up on our backs, on our tax dollars, where the whole city council voted for Port Covington, and ain't no black people living down there. Right. We've seen our dollars go into, look at the lottery. $15 billion has gone into the Maryland State Lottery. They got a new football stadium, a new baseball stadium, but we have schools with no air and no heat. This goes back to 1973. So we know they can do what they want to do. Before you got here, they built up North and Charles for the White Arts District. They built it overnight. Where there's a political will, there's a way. And we just want that way to come to West Baltimore, finally.
Yeah, and I think that's why the West North Avenue Development Authority was established, and I see us making great progress. You know, so let me ask you, let me switch the interview around. You know, what do you think we've been successful at, and what do you think we can be better at?
First of all, if you only got 2 elected officials that show up at a meeting with over 200 people from West Baltimore, it makes me question where Melissa Wells, the delegate, was. It makes me question where Frank Conway, the other delegate, was. I'm going to give the council people somewhat of a pass, but I expected to see, frankly, John Bullock and who's the other one? James Torrance. Mm-hmm. Now, they are supporters of this network, but I just couldn't understand not seeing them. Now, this is campaign season. We 3 weeks out, but this is all the West North. Dude, you got the whole city. You got half the city. You got leaders there. It hurts me that they blew such an opportunity. I'd like to see the president in the community. We know the gala is coming up, $350 a ticket. The former, the big time president, Dr. Calvin Bennett, who spent over 3 decades being the president, he made a lasting impression on the community just by walking from Coppin to the Inner Harbor and back every morning. People don't know that about Dr. Burnett, but by doing so, you get to see the social ills of the community. On Saturday, as you have this big event coming up for Freddie Gray, back when it happened in 2015, the University of Maryland showed up. Coppin's president, Maria Thompson, was going through cancer at the time, but the University of Maryland became the academic institution that demonstrated mastery over covering, analyzing the worst social upheaval in Baltimore since 1968. So we'd like to see Coppin State extend its tentacles better into Moreland Avenue, Bentlow Street, West North Avenue, Dukeland, Gwynns Falls, the surrounding community. We'd like to see Coppin better touch. There were those of us, including Senator Clarence Mitchell IV, who fought for Coppin back in 2002, where Coppin got a boatload of money it never got from Democrats, got it from a Republican governor. We need our Democratic leaders to step up and help build on these successes, like the Iman Center. Big ups to Lieutenant Governor or former Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford and Senator Hayes to put the Iman Center, as you often discuss, in the 2100 block of West North Avenue. Everybody knows Little Melvin used to have the warehouse there, but now it's a $3 million facility about to expand into probably a $5 million facility. We want to see more investment, especially 9 years later, when next year comes up, a decade since Freddie Gray. We want to be able to show real progress. We want to see real boots on the ground. We want to see the dope gone. We want to see new stores, and we want to see a lot of new homeowners.
Yeah, so when we talk about public safety, we invested. So let me go through some of the grants that we.
How did I do?
You did good. You did good. On the politician thing, I'm gonna let you deal with that one. And the media.
They want to get reelected. They better show up on North Avenue because we will remember them.
Hey, I'm gonna let you do your job as the 4th state here in the country.
The 4th state. That's right.
So look, on public safety, we awarded a $350,000 grant to a public safety entity, Frontline Management, that will do unarmed public safety patrols and street cleaning around Penn North, where we have a challenge of a multitude of issues, and then also between the 31 and 3200 block of West North Avenue. We're also providing a $750,000 grant to a Black female developer to close the gap to provide student housing for Coppin along West North Avenue at 1801 North Rosedale.
Please say that again. Please, is that are those the 9 AKAs?
No. So they're going to be focused on a Live at Coppin site right across the street from the Science and Technology Building. So the 9 AKAs, that's visionary charities. They will be receiving a $500,000 grant for single family and rehab housing. Nowhere
in Baltimore do you hear news about Black women investors, Black women construction people doing this massive type of work. We salute and applaud your work, Chad.
I appreciate that. And then, we're investing $3.7 million in the Walbrook Mill site. So 1.7 is to acquire and rehab that B&O office building, which will be a state office for the West North Avenue Development Authority. And then we are awarding $2 million to Barco and OpenWorks to set up a OpenWorks West site, as they have in East Baltimore, makerspace site. And then we invested $150,000 into 6 female-owned vendors in the Walbrook North Food Hall. so that they could purchase kitchen equipment. And so we're doing those investments along West North Avenue, but also making sure that we look at people that may not traditionally receive city and state funding, so that they could be futurely eligible for city and state funding, where they normally are not awarded those type of grant funds.
So, Chad, time has run out on us, but you have to plug Saturday's event, and we are very proud. We want people to go to WNADA.org for more information, right?
Yeah, go to WNADA.org. But what we're doing is Saturday at Cumberland Cary Park, right 1 block south of Penn North. I forgot the time, Donnie, so you have to tell me the time. But we're having a remembrance kind of event in partnership with the Black Arts District to have poetry, art, some light speaking to reflect on the 9th anniversary of what occurred along West North Avenue, and talk about the hope for the future that the West North Avenue Development Authority is addressing as some of those systemic causes of lack of fair parity economic opportunity for residents of West Baltimore, having the same amenities. And so we just thought it was a good way for us. Now we're up to $28 million of investment going into West Baltimore to show that, number one, the governor, Senator Hayes, and I definitely here. We listen to the people, and we want to say that, we're with you. And this is the future for West Baltimore. As the governor says, this is really just a down payment on the future of West Baltimore for its residents to set its own destiny. And so we want to be a part of that and be partners with the community.
Okay, 2 to 4 p.m. this Saturday at Cary and Cumberland. That's a block away from Penn North. WNADA will be having a Freddie Gray program. And let me get the verbiage. Building a better future for West Baltimore. Performances from artists of the Pennsylvania Avenue Black Arts and Entertainment District. And we're proud of all of that. We just hope you have some indigenous leaders, some people like Stokey Kennedy, and some people who actually were there during the unrest, people who actually helped make a difference. Coaches, this is from Baltimore County. What corporate entities are WNADA trying to attract? We can get on these then the next time, but people can get in touch with you for more information. All they got to do is go to WNADA.org. Any final thoughts, Chad, before we go?
Yeah, Don, I just want to thank you for giving our people a platform, an alternative platform for us to speak. As you know, I rarely do media interviews, but I definitely want to come back on and make this a yearly thing or a semi-yearly event to come on your show and speak to the people that really watch your show and are impacted in West Baltimore. And I just want to thank the community for welcoming and supporting and continue to support me, even through personal challenging times and professional challenging times. And I just want to tell you, I love all of y'all. Appreciate it, man.
Well, we appreciate you too. We can be tough when we get people from out of town. I'll be honest. I mean, I'm always big. My dad was big on local talent, but you have proven yourself. You've done your research. You've done your homework. You've gotten experience. You mentioned Frankfurt, Germany. You mentioned Trinidad and Tobago. You mentioned Nigeria. You mentioned South Africa. And you're a black man. You went to UDC. And you were over there fighting in the streets of DC, straight out of Southeast. So you all right with me. Southeast remind me of Sandtown.
I appreciate that, my brother. Thanks so much.
Hold up. We got a couple more comments. Want to get these people in there. They ain't going to talk about me. Joey Garner gave you much love.
Thanks, Joey.
Baltimore County gave you much love. That's Doug Burnett. Okay. Right. Thank you very much again, Chad. Up to date, down tomorrow. Do your day and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it. I got to do it, regardless of how I feel. I am somebody. I am my brother's keeper. Good morning, world.